we are still celebrating the life of the late former UN Secretary General Busumuru Kofi Annan. And there is a group that exists and they work only to recognize the achievements of people towards doing goodwill to others. And they're going to join us in studio to tell us exactly what their mandate is, and also in celebration of the life of the former UN Secretary General, they will tell us a bit about him also. I'm joined in studio by Emmanuel Kutin, who is a Goodwill ambassador. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. But let's start off with the Global Goodwill Ambassadors. When we talk about them, what group is it and what do you exist to do?
Well, thank you. Global Goodwill Ambassadors, we are ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Wow.
And it was founded by one Richard Depila, who is white, and we have over 2,000 Global Goodwill Ambassadors in almost all the countries of the world. We are recognized by the United Nations, and we are ambassadors for the SDGs.
Right.
So basically a day like this, Kofi Annan, a son of Ghana, and one of the greatest sons of Africa, epitomizes what a global goodwill ambassador is. So that's why we are here, to reach out to the people of Ghana, to let them know about our existence, one, and to celebrate the life of Kofi Annan.
Very well. So what exactly would you say was the relationship between the Global Goodwill Ambassadors and the late former UN Secretary General in the person of Kofi Annan?
Unfortunately, before his passing, we were in talks with him to be the chair of the Global Goodwill Ambassadors, apart from our founder, Richard Depila, and then we have other executives at the global level. But given what he has done for humanity, it was with a very heavy heart when we learned of his demise. So we have a full entourage of the Global Goodwill Ambassadors from other parts of the country and those of us in Ghana here. And we have over 30 in Ghana at the moment, with our chair, Elivaba Mensah, who have just joined us.
Yes, we are joined right now by Madame Elivava Mensah. She is the chair for the Global Goodwill Ambassadors, and she'll also be sharing with us exactly what the relationship with the group and Kofi Annan was. Mr. Kutin was just saying you were about to make him, is it the chair of the the group?
Actually, because Kofi Annan was a peacemaker, I would say. He was a humanitarian, and my CEO, Richard Depila, loved him a lot. And for that matter, we discussed, and he said he wanted Kofi Annan to be our chairman. And then I said, okay, yeah, we can look for him. And then when we looked for him and we found him, he was so happy that, yeah, he want to be, but unfortunately, may his soul rest in peace. So we love him, and what we want to say is we want to see more of Kofi Annan.
Right. And so for you, when the news hit you that he had passed on, how did you receive it as a group?
It was disheartening, but life is life, and we will all pass away. So I just took it easy, and I called him and I said, this is what is happening. He was like, oh no, but then we just took it anyway.
Very well. So what will the group in total miss about Kofi Annan?
His demeanor, his way of life, his way of giving to humanity, everything about him, everything. We want to be like him.
More or less, he stomached everything. He had the tenacity to listen to everybody. And that is what I want our politicians to emulate, because they are the policy makers and they touch all of our souls and hearts. if we can honor Kofi Annan, we must relive his life. And I think that it will take another generation to have another Kofi Annan. But look, it's doable within the young ones. You see, humanity is not about money. It's about the little things you can do to touch somebody's life or to change his or her life. Look, I was sitting somewhere when I got a call I have been nominated. So you see, we have to learn some aspect of life. Life shouldn't be all about money. Life should be about service. And don't put money in front of you. Somehow, somewhere, someone will sit somewhere and recognize your efforts. And if you see all the global world ambassadors, like I mentioned, they are just ordinary people doing extraordinary things at the international stage. Look at Kofi Annan. Look at where he came from. Even in death, look at his wish for his funeral. So I think that we have lost a very patriotic and true son of Ghana. And if it demands that we even inculcate some of his lifestyle into our curriculum to teach our young kids about his life, we can get another 2 or 10 Kofi Annan out of these enterprises.
Of course. For instance, like me, I moved to go and stay in my hometown. Why? Because when I went there 2016, I realized in their eyes the kind of pain, how they've lost hope and stuff like that. I didn't have enough money to give them. So what I needed to do is to do something. And now I have moved there. I'm impacting. I'm doing adult education myself. I'm educating them. I'm helping them to change their mindset. The children are always in my house. We are eating together. In the morning, you see, that's how you share humanitarian, you know. And when they wake up in the morning, they say, Eli Vava, what do we bring for you? They go to farm and bring me pear and stuff. We share. So I think everybody should do this. Everybody should just open up their arms and share with everybody the little they have. And that's what Kofi Annan did. So we want to follow that step. It's very important.
And just to add this, we as global Goodwill ambassadors also want to appeal to our leaders. They should make women empowerment the core of their policies. Because many countries that have done it have carried their women along. And if you look at Africa, many of the African countries that are doing well, they have empowered their women. Look at Rwanda, 60% MPs women. So I think that we shouldn't shy away from that. We've had independence for a long time now, and we are still in the same karma. So I think that we need to have a serious paradigm shift and look at empowering our women. You remember what Nkrumah said? If we educate a male child, we educate an individual. But if you educate a female, a child, you educate the world. And that is very true. I'm from a very typical village. My mom hasn't been to school. Growing up, I always say this when I get the least opportunity. What I saw my dad do is put maize before her. How she transformed these maize into food and gave birth to 7 of us. So you can imagine if this lady was empowered, given some form of education, before you know, this 7 could be 7,000. And if you see people who are touching life, it's normally the women. Women, we are, you know, excuse me to say that, I'm not being sarcastic, but you see, we remain in our shelves when we have the money. We don't want to give out. And I've observed a trend. When people are celebrating birthdays, women go to orphanages to donate. By women, we organize lavish parties.
And also, it is a good observation there.
It's true. And,
anyway,
and also, Kofi Annan doesn't have anything like sexual harassment or anything attached to his name. You know, when you go to some of the offices and people who have power, they just want to have their way with you. He has a prominent way of life, and I think our elders or the politicians or whoever is in power, who is a man, should learn from this.
And very well, on that final note, I have been speaking to Elivava Mensah. She is the chair for Global Goodwill Ambassadors, and also Emmanuel Kuting, another Goodwill Ambassador. And they have been sharing their privilege of at least wanting to honor Kofi Annan by making him chair, but it was not possible before his demise. And indeed, they have picked some things he did in his lifetime, and they're saying we should all try to emulate it. It's not about money, but just doing good to another person out there. We can all brighten the corner where we are. So let's go out there and do that, even as we celebrate the life of Kofi Annan.